Hi everyone, and welcome to this first episode of In the Limelight. My name is Bernard Ross, and I'm an actuary and a certified financial planner. I've been in the financial services industry for just over 35 years and focus predominantly on life insurance. Recently, I noticed 30 years since the Springboks first won the Rugby World Cup in 1995, and that brings back fond memories because I qualified as an actuary the day before and watched that game on the couch with a bubba and then went out to celebrate again. What are we aiming to do within the Limelight? It's really a focus on the issues around financial planning, financial services for young adults. And a client of mine recently said, "Oh, that was quite interesting. Why the focus on young adults? And I wish I had a financial demystifier when I was that age." And I think that's a good question. And the reason really is that because of the dynamics in terms of remuneration for financial advisors, because of the regulations, the industry really is driving financial advisors to service people who have money, because then as an advisor, you get more money yourself. And this is both on the life insurance side and as probably even more so on the savings and investment side. In addition, there is this huge 20 trillion life insurance gap, being the difference between the amount of insurance you as an individual need to ensure that your family and loved ones are able to continue living with the same standard of living as before the either disability or death event occurs, and the amount of cover that you actually have. And I think for the kind of top 20% of earners in South Africa under the age of 30, that average life insurance gap is about 7.5 million rand. So we're talking pretty big numbers. It's something I've spoken about in the industry for 10 to 20 years, and nothing seems to have changed in terms of trying to make insurance more accessible. So I thought, what the hell, let's give it a bash and see if I can try and bring some information to the market and help you to understand a bit more about your options, get some more clarity, and hopefully take some action, because ultimately, if you don't take action, then you will not end up in that 6% of adults who are able to retire comfortably. So maybe a bit more of a story about myself. And I think education is something I've been interested in from a very young age. I taught maths to my fellow students at school. When I was working, I joined the actuarial society of my employer and went out to teach grade 11s at a school in Yanga for 2 years, and it was quite enlightening that the things I needed to teach them about had very little to do with what they were studying in grade 11 and a lot to do with basics that they should have learned 5-6 years ago. And I've continued to teach on an ad hoc basis subsequent to that, and that is still unfortunately the case. More recently, I participated in the Partners for Possibility leadership program, where I was paired up with the principal of St. Mary's Primary School, and that was a very interesting experience. And a shout out to Granville, Craster, the principal there, and the team, and keep doing the good work. As far as a personal story about myself and my family and financial services, I'm a big fan of tax-free savings accounts. Unfortunately, they didn't exist when I was your age, in the late 20s, early 30s. But they were introduced 10 years ago in 2015, and I think I probably started contributing for my children and myself and my wife within 6 or so months of their introduction. And about a year ago, I think my daughter gave me a shout. I don't know if it was in person or via WhatsApp, and said, "Dad, if I continue contributing the 3,000 Rand a month until I've used up my lifetime allocation, will that be enough for me to retire on if I don't really want to kind of really climb the corporate ladder and work really hard? And originally I said, no, I didn't think so. But I did the numbers and I said, yeah, probably. Now for a recurring segment, Myth Smash. This week's myth: if I only save 200 Rand, it won't make a difference. No, completely, utterly false. Saving anything will make a difference, and doing it over a long period of time will make that difference much bigger. If we take the example of 200 Rand saved over 40 years in high growth, ideally in high growth assets, that could be worth as much as 500,000 Rand or more in today's money terms, and in excess of 4 million in 40 years' time. Now, if you're not comfortable investing in high growth assets, you could invest in fixed interest, which I wouldn't recommend for a 40-year time period. And that would only be worth in the region of 100,000 Rand in today's money terms. So you can see there's a material difference in the value depending on the average annual return that you are earning. But please take it from me, saving anything on a continuous, regular, consistent basis makes a massive difference, and the longer that period of time, the bigger the impact it has in the end of the day. Okay, here's what you can look forward to in the next episode: how to make your newborn child a billionaire. Gee, that sounds a bit like bullshit to me. It's not actually. It is possible. But regardless of whether it's possible for you in your own financial circumstances, we'll cover the issues about how best to go about setting your child up for their financial future, whether it's for their tertiary education, whether it's to put down a deposit for a home when they start work, or ultimately whether it's for their retirement, which is where you get the biggest bang for buck. We'll cover these issues and talk through the pros and cons in next session. Also later this season, we're going to talk about safe or spicy, your aptitude towards investments, and an interesting comment by someone I've worked with. He says he wants whatever it is, it must be guaranteed, high growth but guaranteed. And I had to explain to him that unfortunately no investment is actually guaranteed, not even a government bond, because it's possible that the government may not be able to pay you. So yeah, we'll talk through and try and unpack those issues in more detail. Your money archetype and the emotions surrounding money and what makes you as an individual tick. So this is very important, because I think most financial things that you think about are pretty straightforward and simple. I mean, what do they say? You should spend less than you earn. I mean, that's pretty common sense. No one's going to argue that, but a lot of people in South Africa struggle to actually achieve that. And so the importance there is linked to how you handle and deal with money, and really trying to turn it into a habit which you don't think about, it just happens on an automatic monthly basis. And lastly, we'll kind of touch on financial self-care, because I think the youth of today, and particularly in South Africa, I mean, all the stories that I see on a regular basis is how difficult it is for people to make ends meet. People in debt up to their eyeballs with multiple debts or credit cards or microloans, and really looking at that and saying, how can we help you with the tools that would make it easier for you to address and get yourself into a better and a more stable financial situation. Before we wrap up, there are 3 money tidbits I'd like to share with you all. Number 1, you can't go wrong with tax-free savings accounts. I mean, they should have called them tax-free investment accounts, but it is what it is. Number 2, shame is not a financial strategy. I've seen this with my clients. You've got to stop beating yourself up and just accept where you're at and do something to address the problem. And lastly, but not leastly, money is very personal, but it shouldn't be private. So you really need to speak to someone and discuss the issues so that you can get the confidence and really get up and do something about it. If today hit home and you're interested to know more, like and subscribe on our YouTube channel. And take our Money Archetype quiz. The link is below in the comments. Next week, we deep dive into how to make your newborn child a billionaire. It's going to be an interesting chat, I think. Until then, stay smart, stay steady, and stay in the limelight.